Chelsea 2, Arsenal 2, lots of decisions I think went against us yesterday. However, we did come away with a point in the end. Sort of feels like, I'm not quite sure how we did it at the end of the day, but a little bit of brilliance from Declan Rice as usual. And of course, Bukayo Saka with a very, very good assist. Trossard, tiny finish there to equalize at Stamford Bridge. I just want to move forward quickly and talk about, the last 3 videos I've done have been have at least mentioned Raya and Ramsdale. Of course, it's a big debate at Arsenal right now. Everyone, even different coaches are asked about rotating goalkeepers. Of course, cup games, Champions League, FA Cups, whatever it may be. It's normal to rotate goalkeepers like that. However, Arteta has come out in a pretty stark way and said that this is what he wants to do moving forward and rotate these players in and out. He dropped Ramsdale for, in my opinion, few, if any, mistakes this season that he's made for Raya when he brought him in. Obviously, Raya, a goalkeeper Arteta has looked at for a couple years now as Arsenal manager. Finally got his man. And I mentioned the last 3 videos I've made mentioning these 2 goalkeepers because it's a point of contention, right? 2 guys fighting for the number 1 spot. Realistically, you think, okay, play one in the Premier League, Arsenal back in the Champions League, give that opportunity to Ramsdale or give it to Raya, but split these games. If you talk about rotating goalkeepers like you want to, we just haven't seen that play out. And yesterday, I think a lot of people, myself included, are asking the question now, is Raya good enough to be starting over Ramsdale? And, I just want to make a point. Dan from AFTV, one of the guys who almost never gets it wrong alongside lead judges, in my opinion. He mentioned in his video, if Arteta is in fact ruthless, the way he dropped Ramsdale for, again, like I said, few, if any, mistakes, then he'll do the same thing for Raya. I personally don't think he will. That's my opinion. I don't think he'll drop Raya for the game on Tuesday. Maybe next week in the Premier League he'll do it. But, Arteta is a bit of a stubborn guy. When you do stuff like that, as well as he is sort of trained to talk to the media, it'll bring up questions that maybe you don't want to answer. Obviously, in his post-game interview, he was pretty upset, I think, in fairness. He was asked a couple silly questions from the reporter on a number of things, actually. Hello. And, it's probably not something he wants to deal with, but you have to put the team ahead of anything that you do. And not saying he doesn't, but this is such a huge point of contention, Raya and Ramsdale. Let me know what you guys think. It's an interesting topic. I don't think it's ever going to not be interesting as long as one guy is playing over the other. Again, you have to be rotating goalkeepers if that's what you say you want to do, like Mikel has. Stick to your word. I think you're risking maybe Ramsdale's trust or the problem is that if you if you do drop Raya now after a pretty poor performance yesterday, how is that going to affect him? What does that tell Raya? What does that tell Ramsdale? Are you not allowed to make mistakes? I don't think he'll go that far. Of course, you look back at the Chelsea game, the Spurs game, about what he said regarding Jorginho's mistake. He said, "Look, this is football. You're allowed to make mistakes. We're all with him. We all love him." And it's what else do you expect from Mikel? You know he's going to be honest, especially about stuff like that. You'll never see him, get on the back of one of his players or talk down to one of his players, especially after a mistake like that. So yeah, it's really complicated when it comes down to what you do with this conundrum that he sort of created himself. Nothing wrong with having 2 brilliant goalkeepers at your club, but you have to be willing to make both of them happy. So, I think Arteta is going to be remembered for this decision come Tuesday, if not come the weekend. Does he drop Raya? Does he leave? Does he leave Raya in? Does he bring Ramsdale in? It's a big point of contention. Let me know what you think. Obviously, as always. Real quick about the penalties and the challenge from Cole Palmer in the 8th minute, whatever it was, on Gabriel Jesus. A couple things. Palmer, I see people saying he shouldn't have been on the pitch to take the penalty. It looked a very, very poor challenge. It was from behind. It was late. he didn't even come close to winning the ball. Studs were up, and at the end of the day, it really looked like he stuck his studs there. And it wasn't one of these things where you pull out. You maybe know you're not going to get contact with the ball. You see a lot of good defenders are able to do this, pull out, and they're still. I mean, look at Curtis Jones, shown a red card for winning the ball as his studs rolled over it. I mean, he's a perfectly good tackle. That is the outcome of a contact sport, is you're going to have stuff. I mean, it wasn't intentional. The Cole Palmer tackle was intentional. It was from behind. It was late. I mean, how many more boxes does it need to tick? He was booked for it. And you have this inner issue where, later on in the game, he's running up to the referee begging for a yellow card. How many times already this season have we seen players, coaches get instantly booked for doing that, which I think is a good rule. You can't be surrounding the referee every time you think a decision should go for your team. It's ridiculous. You need to give referees room. You see it all the time, a decision, if it's a penalty shout, a bad tackle, whatever it may be, you always see the referee, he'll put a finger to it, whatever it is, you could see him telling the players surrounding him, they're checking it. VAR is going to have a look. I don't understand why the referees need to be crowded. And yet, if you're a player, maybe you feel you need to make your point a little stronger. But the fact that he wasn't booked for that, for a second yellow, mind you, if not a straight red for the tackle on Jesus, I thought it was really, really poor. And regarding the Saliba penalty, the commentators, while I was watching, I was at work, I couldn't watch the game, so I had to go back and watch the recording. The commentators were saying VAR had mentioned that Mudrik's header was on target. So, that's one point that they made as to why it could be given. And when you look at Saliba, I mean, even John Terry had said that it was harsh to give that penalty. Obviously, a Chelsea fan, happy to have it. But, who even knows the rules anymore? Even last week, something similar wasn't given. You look at the Everton-Liverpool game earlier that morning, I thought that was a pretty stonewall penalty. Despite the distance, they were very close, but the arm was in a totally unnatural position. But Saliba's jumping, keeping his balance. The rule is just not clear anymore in regards to handball. So I genuinely don't even know if it should be or shouldn't be a penalty. Of course, give me your opinion of what you think. But for me, I genuinely do not know if it should have been given. I think it was harsh to give it. Thankfully, we came away with a point at the end of the day. So it's not something that it's going to weigh on you too hard. But Saliba, as we know, top professional, didn't let it get into his head, kept playing. I mean, nursing an injury as well, toe injury. So, it's just, I don't know the rules anymore. I don't think anybody does. And it seems every week there's something going on with VAR, something going on with the referees. And if you think the players and us fans are sick of it, I mean, imagine what the referees must be thinking. And these are guys who can't really speak out. So I'd be interested to know how many of them agree or disagree with rules that their professional opinion goes against in regards to things like this. So I think that's a pretty interesting topic, in my opinion. Moving on to Odegaard, criticize whoever you want. The captain's not immune to criticism, but there's a lot of overreactions I'm seeing, and it's frankly it's pretty embarrassing. Tweets, people calling for him to be dropped as captain, saying he's not good enough, this and that. It's insane. Your best players have to play. You see Mikel say this time and time again, especially when it comes to Bukayo Saka, whether he should be rested, this or that. But, you look at Odegaard, 90 minutes against Bournemouth. He played 80 against Lens. He played 80 minutes against Cyprus, 90 against Spain. This is a guy who is captain for his country, captain for his club. He is the man relied on to make plays, to open up the defense. A lot is put on Odegaard, and so what, he doesn't drop a 10 out of 10 every game. It's ridiculous to say that he should be dropped as a captain. I mean, I can't even really acknowledge that. It's ridiculous, but dropped to the bench, sure, no one's immune to that. Fabio Vieira has come on and played brilliantly, I think, so far this season, but it's different when you come on as a substitute. It's different starting a game, the mentality, and coming off as a sub. Maybe you're up against a couple players with tired legs. It's a very, very different scenario. I think you need to cut Odegaard a lot of slack, not a little bit of slack, to cut him a lot of slack, because this is a man who has come in to Arsenal, captain this side to a very strong title charge, captain this side to a Champions League football club, and he is the guy moving forward, in my opinion. I don't think anyone can really argue with that unless you're some reactionary, Twitter Andy, just bitching for the sake of it. So I'll leave that there. Let's talk about Zinchenko and Tomiyasu. Lots of debates about Zinchenko's ability to defend. Obviously, putting him up against Tomiyasu, I think probably 8 times out of 10. Tomiyasu's taking the cake in that debate in terms of defending. But you can't pretend like Zinchenko is not you can't pretend he cannot defend. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. Of course he can. Maybe it's not his best attribute, which again is a little bit strange as a left back. But you look, time and time again, I'm making this argument. It's getting really boring. He strings together this midfield. He pulls together runs, and he's the guy who's making passes, breaking the defense. That's his job. And yes, he's a left back. Yes, he'll go back to defend. But you think about the Xhaka role and what he did last season. When you saw Zinchenko moving forward, Xhaka was dropping back. Vice versa, they switched back and forth, which is interesting because when you look at Tomiyasu playing the last couple of games when he's come on, especially against Man City, you look at the header, his part in that build-up to the goal from Gabriel Martinelli. He's basically playing as like a number 9, really, when you look at it. Even yesterday when he was playing, he's so far up in that build-up. The way he's playing, he's more of a Xhaka player to fit that role than Zinchenko is by far. I mean, it's not even close. The composure Tomiyasu has on the ball is brilliant. The way he can pass, the way he can defend as well. I mean, he may not be making those brilliant defense-breaking passes, but he is capable of it. But he brings other strengths to this Arsenal team. I think he is far more suited for that role than Zinchenko. I'm not sure if that's the plan for Tomiyasu. Obviously, Timber has been out for so long. Clearly, he's the number 1 choice for Arteta when he is fit. When he was fit, he was playing. At the start of the season, Zinchenko was perfectly fit to play. Timber clearly started above him, before him. It's pretty obvious that plan moving forward. So it's interesting to see. At the start of the season, again, remember Gabriel was benched for Benjamin White to come in at center back. That's also interesting. But look, who's complaining? Look at the strength we have in our defense. You have Ben White, who can play right back and center back. Tomiyasu can play across the whole line if he wanted to. Timber can play left back. Timber can play that Zinchenko role. So, at the end of the day, it's competition that's good for Arsenal moving forward. And there's no reason to be complaining or comparing these players about who can do what better, who can do. At the end of the day, it's a benefit for Arsenal in totality. So that's my opinion on that. Havertz, came on as a sub, getting booed by Chelsea fans, which whatever. I think the role he came on, the role that he played, as a number 9 or a false 9, whatever it may be. Look, he's brilliant in the build-up. Again, you harken back to the Man City goal, the way he was there finding space, very daft, quick touches, soft touches, and again, I thought he was very good as that number 9. The whole midfield thing, the left center mid, right center mid, that Arteta is. I think you got to end it here. I think the false 9, is far better suited for Havertz. Maybe Jesus gets pushed out to the wing when Havertz is in contention to start. But pretty hard to bench Gabriel Martinelli, obviously. So one more thing here, just want to talk about Smith Rowe. I saw a tweet from DT, obviously. Mr. DT, he said, I can see why Emile Smith Rowe doesn't start games. Giving the ball away, slow in the press, not for me, thanks. That was all that he said. Obviously, a guy who's praised Smith Rowe before, so you can't hark on him for a little bit of criticism, but I'm not quite sure what that means. He wants him to be sold. I don't know what the aim of this tweet was, but in a game where DT himself had mentioned, you're talking about back-to-back tweets that he had mentioned that we played dreadfully. Multiple players had poor games yesterday. So in a game like that where Smith Rowe, has a couple poor passes, while also in the same breath defending Odegaard for doing the same thing, it's a bit bizarre to me. So I'm not quite sure what that's all about. We're still unbeaten in the league. Obviously, tomorrow I'll be watching Spurs. Hopefully, they'll be dropping points. I'm watching Villa right now. They seem to be flying. Douglas Luiz, again, I wouldn't mind seeing him in an Arsenal shirt. Arteta, clearly a big admirer of that. So, yeah, let's drop it there. Thank you very much for watching. If you've made it this far, I do really appreciate it. And I will see you when I see you.